health span. And today's video I want to introduce you Dr. Attia. It's a doctor who gave us an advice about lifestyle fasting period. And in this video he is explaining to us about how fasting causes muscle loss. And let's not discuss with you anything right now, because we're right now going to hear interview from Dr. Attia. Let's go start.
You know, one thing that I absolutely learned through fasting is the enormous importance of strength training throughout a fast. It's very easy. You're going to lose muscle mass when you fast. You have to accept that. So the question is, how do you minimize that damage? How do you lose as little muscle mass as possible? And strength training daily during a fast has become an important part of that. But when you look at time-restricted feeding, which is, or people call it intermittent fasting, although I don't like that term very much. I think time-restricted makes more sense when you're just talking about, 16 or 18 hours. I'm really starting to see a lot of people who do that excessively and who aren't necessarily training correctly. They lose weight, but they're losing muscle more than they would want to see. And, we just had a patient who we did a DEXA scan on last week. And it was probably the first one we've done in 18 months on him. And in that 18-month period, his body weight had not changed. Maybe he was a bit lighter, actually. He might have lost 4 pounds. But his body fat was so high, I almost fell off my chair. And he doesn't look chubby, right? But it speaks to how much muscle he's lost. So his body fat went from about 18% to 30%. It's just a totally unacceptable amount of fat for someone his age. And his visceral fat went up, which I actually care more about than body fat. We can talk about that later. But his visceral fat also went up. So, this is a guy who has religiously been doing his time-restricted feeding every day, but he doesn't really lift weights. He walks and, does some yoga and stuff like that, but he's not doing strength training. So I think in a person like that, there's a real downside to too much time-restricted feeding. And even for myself, like in the last 4 or 5 months, I did a DEXA back in January, and I hadn't done one in years. And from January to the last period that I had done a DEXA, my body weight was almost identical. Maybe I was 2 pounds lighter this year versus the last time. But my body fat was up. I think I went from 10 to 16% body fat. And again, you could say, well, 16 is not the end of the world, but that was a significant loss of muscle and gain of fat. And I did wonder if that was just too much, because I always exercise in the morning, but then don't eat. So to exercise and then not provide yourself with, especially when you're strength training, to provide yourself with any amino acids every single day to, undergo muscle protein synthesis, I think is a little bit risky. So I've been looking at other strategies around that, right? So maybe 2 years doing 7 days a quarter, maybe a year doing of 3 days a month. But in between, it's also doing lots of time restricted. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think the daily time restricted was a bit more the issue, because I think I think the 3-day fast a month with a lot of lifting, I didn't sense I lost a lot of muscle during that period of time. But I think every day, exercising in the morning, not putting calories in until later in the day, it has to be taken in the context of an individual. So if you're someone who's 100 pounds overweight or you have diabetes, it's a totally worthwhile trade-off to lose muscle mass, because you're losing more fat mass along the way. Yeah. Right. So you are going to technically get leaner with that approach. But when you take a relatively healthy and lean individual, one has to be a little bit careful and look for alternative ways to sort of get the benefits of that fast. I'm going to eat a little bit more early in the day and a little less late in the day.
Dr. Attia is a reliable person. I trust him, and his recommendation is really helpful, and I see result. My weight doesn't change too much, doesn't change at all. My weight always 57 kilograms, and this because I eat big breakfast. large breakfast like Dr. Attia recommended, and middle lunch. Lunch could be light lunch, it means fresh salad with olive oil, some fruits or fish or potatoes altogether. For amount of calories, my breakfast is 700, approximately 700 calories. My lunch is 300 calories, not more. And after 2 p.m. I refuse to eat anything, absolutely anything, no apples, no kefir. Before I consumed some kefir before I will go to sleep. Now I understand it's just needed. I just need it. I just don't have interest. I can sleep hungry, no problem. I'm just not hungry. My organism already accepted the way I eat. For you, it will require some time. First 2 weeks is going to be really difficult. Adapt yourself for 1-2 times a day meal, but after that it's going to be automatically like machine. Your body will support you, will communicate with you and give you energy you need.
In an ideal world, I think that the best way to do time restricted eating would be to eat a big breakfast. So it would be to wake up, exercise, eat a huge breakfast. By huge, I don't mean gluttonous, but I mean that's your biggest meal of the day. At say, I don't know, like, let's just put some numbers to it. You wake up at 6, you work out from 7 to 8:30. At 9 o'clock, you're eating your largest meal. You eat another meal at 1 o'clock that is modest, and you don't eat again. That would be a great way to do 16 hours of not eating a day.
It's exactly what I have been doing for already several years. 10 years to be clear.
That's problematic for 2 reasons. The first is it's socially problematic. It's really easy to not have breakfast because very few people eat breakfast with other people, but dinner is our social meal. And for obvious reasons, it just poses a difficulty to be the guy who never eats dinner.
For this long time of fasting or time restricting eating, you need support from your family. In my case, my family not only support me, my family participate with me and also do time restricting eating. All my family eat in the morning and refuse to eat in the evening. My family became vegan or vegetarian, except kids. For kids, very important balance diet. Eat healthy food and regularly consume food. It means each 2 or 4 hours. If your child doesn't eat fast food, he will never gain weight. Because children's organism knows more exactly when to eat and what to eat. We are talking about good nutrition, not fast food or sugar. Let's continue with Dr. Attia.
And then the other thing is, I think for many people it is hard to go to bed hungry. And truthfully, in longer fasts, it gets easier because, you know, if you're fasting for 7 days, by the time you hit that 5th day, a lot of your hunger has sort of dissipated, but 16 hours of not eating can generally pose some hunger. And for some reason, I just think psychologically in the evening, we're a little less busy, so it's even more noticeable. Whereas if you're doing the traditional way that people think about not eating for 16 hours, it's pretty easy to wrap yourself up in work in the morning, skip breakfast, and kind of delay your lunch a little bit. So, you know, I don't know that I have a great answer for that, other than I think people should be a little cautious and not just apply the same hammer to every nail, and kind of think about their own physiology a little bit, and rely on these, you know, technologies like DEXA to make sure, which again is so readily available, relatively inexpensive, and provides both good information about body composition and also this thing of visceral fat that, and I think it just speaks to sort of why I don't like talking about nutrition very much, because it does lend itself to politics, not literally, but it's sort of the politics religion ethos, which is whatever you're eating is obviously the only thing. And I guess I just encourage people to be much more attuned to all of the tools, right? So caloric restriction, dietary restriction, time restriction, right? You've probably heard me go on and on about my framework, the 3 levers. Always pull 1, sometimes pull 2, occasionally pull 3, never pull none. So time restriction, what we were talking about, restricting when you eat, but otherwise not restricting how much or what. Dietary restriction is restricting some of the content in what you eat. So not eating carbs, not eating wheat, not eating meat,
not
something
eating
like
Doritos.
Right. Not eating sugar. Those are all forms of dietary restriction. And then caloric restriction is restricting the amount. And so if you are never pulling one of those levers, which means you're eating as much as you want, whenever you want, of whatever, anything you want, anytime, how much, whatever, that's called the standard American diet.
And if you like to buy supplements for body weight, supplements which will help you to stay younger, longer, and even reverse your aging, then please put your email, your contact in my list. I will send you a link where you can buy supplements from a reliable company. I will put my personal email below. You can see. If you have interest to this, just send me email. Then you interested about this. Okay. For today, that's all what I wanted to show you. Please subscribe this channel, put notification bell, not to miss any video. And see you in the next video. Bye.